Okay, let's kick off this explainer with a number that is absolutely going to blow your mind. 1,620%. Seriously, think about it like this. If you're a sports bettor and you somehow manage to find a simple 10% edge on every bet you place, a standard 17-game NFL season is going to net you a pretty respectable 170% return. But baseball? Oh, baseball is a completely different beast because there are a grueling 162 games in a regular season. That exact same 10% edge actually compounds into a massive 1,620% return on investment. The volume is just staggering. And honestly, that sheer volume is exactly what we're going to exploit today. I am so pumped you're here. In today's explainer, we are completely transforming how you look at baseball. We're throwing out the gut feelings, we're ditching the lucky guesses. Instead, we're diving into a literal masterclass playbook sourced directly from professional bettors. These guys don't treat the MLB market like a casino, not at all. They treat it as a highly inefficient financial market. So we're going to walk through exactly how to turn your daily MLB viewing into a structured, data-driven, and highly profitable system. Let's get into it. Starting right off with Section 1, the MLB betting edge. On any given summer day, you've got typically 10 to 12 major league games happening all at once. For sportsbooks, having to set the lines and perfectly price every single player prop across a dozen different games, it's incredibly difficult. Because of that daily grind, sportsbooks just cannot perfectly price every market, and that creates a massive surface area of opportunity for us. Which brings us to the absolute non-negotiable rule of profitable betting: line shopping. Think about it. Would you buy a car for $20,000 if the dealership right next door was selling the exact same car for $15,000? Of course not. Yet casual bettors do this literally every single day. For example, our sources highlighted a game where the Washington Nationals were favored to win at minus 175 odds on one sportsbook, meaning you'd have to risk $175 just to win 100. But if you just checked another book, they were minus 151. Why on earth would you ever pay more for the exact same bet? The market is totally fragmented, and shopping around for the best price is hands down your biggest weapon. But beyond just line shopping, we really need to talk about the math behind sportsbook promotions. A lot of people dismiss promos as just cheap gimmicks, but to a pro bettor, they are mathematically guaranteed value. Take FanDuel's really popular Dinger Tuesday promo, for example. You bet $25 on a player to hit a home run. Well, regardless of whether he actually hits one or not, you get a $5 bonus for every home run hit in that entire game by either team. Now, since the average MLB game features about 2.5 home runs, FanDuel is mathematically just handing you an expected value of $12.50 per game. If you systematically play that across 10 games on a Tuesday, boom, that's $125 of expected value just handed to you on a silver platter. So, the huge takeaway here is that before we even look at a baseball player's stats, we have to follow these golden rules. You shop the lines, you hunt down the promos, you absolutely wait for confirmed starting lineups, and you have to know your specific sportsbook's rules. Like, did you know that if you bet a player prop on FanDuel and that player doesn't even start but comes in as a pinch hitter for just one at-bat, your bet actually counts? A lot of other books will just void the bet entirely in that scenario. Knowing the house rules is just as critical as knowing the game itself. Moving right along to Section 2, the most profitable bets. Okay, we've got our foundation set. Now, what are the actual bets that sharp, profitable bettors are zeroing in on? You might be thinking it's predicting those massive grand slams or picking the World Series winner right out of the gate. But the reality is way more analytical and honestly, a lot less flashy. I really want you to think about this for a second. Why is the absolute most boring bet in baseball actually the most profitable? It feels completely counterintuitive, right? We watch sports for the excitement, the action. But when you are investing in sports markets, excitement is usually the enemy of profit. So here's the secret. The answer is betting the under on a batter's runs scored. Yes, it is incredibly boring to watch because you are literally sitting there rooting for a professional athlete to do absolutely nothing. But structurally speaking, it's an absolute goldmine. Think about how uniquely difficult baseball is. For a batter to score a run, he has to successfully get a hit or draw a walk, then he has to advance around 3 separate bases, and he has to cross home plate all before his teammates get 3 outs. By betting the under, you win if he strikes out, you win if he pops out, you even win if he hits a double but gets stranded on base. There are just so many paths to victory, making it one of the highest probability bets on the entire board. Another incredibly profitable target to look out for is the pitcher-earned runs mismatch. You will frequently run into situations where the general betting market sets an elite aces line at under 1.5 earned runs. But if you do your homework and shop around, you might find a couple of books offering under 2.5 for that exact same pitcher. Guys, you are essentially being gifted a whole extra run of buffer. Your pitcher can have an off inning, give up 2 earned runs, and you still walk away a winner. Plus, don't forget the keyword here is earned runs. If a run scores because the shortstop bobbled a routine grounder, that error doesn't count against your bet. Having that kind of buffer just skyrockets your win probability. All right, that brings us to section 3, data over gut feelings. This section right here is where we really separate the casual fans from the strategic investors. If you're out there relying on gut feelings, I promise you, your bankroll is going to bleed dry over a 162-game season. You absolutely must use hard, actionable data points. For instance, you have to look at left versus right-handed splits. A player might be batting an incredible 300 against lefties, but hitting a miserable 220 against righties. You also need to dig into pitch arsenals. If a starting pitcher heavily relies on throwing sinkers and changeups, you go look for a batter, like the Cubs' Ian Happ from our source example, who statistically crushes sinkers and changeups. And you can't ignore team tendencies either. The Giants might strike out constantly, which makes the opposing pitcher's strikeout props a phenomenal bet, while a team like the Nationals might rarely strike out at all. Oh, and never ever forget the venue. A pop fly in the thin mountain air of Coors Field in Colorado is going into the bleachers for a home run, while that exact same hit is going to be a totally routine out in Petco Park in San Diego. Okay, let's slow down for just a second, because really grasping this next statistical concept is kind of the secret key to unlocking the whole prop betting market. It's called right-skewed distribution. In baseball statistics, like pitchers' strikeouts, for example, a player obviously cannot get fewer than 0 strikeouts. 0 is a hard floor. But theoretically, a pitcher could get 10, 12, or even 15 strikeouts on a crazy night. Because of this long tail of positive possibilities stretching out to the right, the mathematical average result gets pulled higher than the most common typical result. And that statistical skew creates what experts call the trap of the average. Daily fantasy sports sites, or DFS apps, they project a player's mean. They care about the average because they care about the total points accrued over the season. But sportsbooks? They do not care about the average. They care about the median. The median is the exact middle point where a result is 50% likely to go over and 50% likely to go under. So, the absolute crucial point is summarized perfectly by this rule from Unabated. Don't bet the mean, you have to bet the median. Let's say a DFS site tells you a pitcher's average projection is 5.6 strikeouts. You might see that and be super tempted to bet the over on a sportsbook line that's set at 5.5. But because of that right-skewed distribution we just talked about, the true median might actually be lower, maybe down at 5.2. If you're out there blindly following DFS average projections, you are going to end up betting way too many overs, and mathematically, you will lose in the long run. Let's level up one last time with Section 4, Advanced Sharp Strategies. We've covered the baseline rules, we've covered the data, now we are entering the absolute top tier of the playbook. This is where bettors leverage math to literally day trade the sports market. The absolute pinnacle of this is arbitrage betting. When two sportsbooks disagree wildly on a specific line, you can actually play both sides and guarantee yourself a profit no matter what happens on the field. Look at this real live betting example from a sharp bettor who goes by Arb Thief. He put $490 on the under 18.5 runs over at DraftKings and simultaneously plays $310 on the over 18.5 runs over on FanDuel. His total investment across both books was $800. If the game goes under, DraftKings pays out $840. If the game goes over, FanDuel pays out over $843. Regardless of how the actual game of baseball played out, he locked in around $40 of pure risk-free profit. It's not gambling, it's exploiting market inefficiencies. Finally, we have the correlation strategy, which is ridiculously effective on daily fantasy apps that have fixed parlay payouts. The whole strategy is to stack events that naturally cause each other to happen. Step 1, you find a dominant pitcher whose strikeout numbers are undervalued by the market. Let's use Dylan Cease as an example here. Step 2, logically, if Cease has a fantastic game and strikes everyone out, the opposing batters are naturally going to fail, right? So you stack under bets on the opposing team's hits and runs. If your initial read on the pitcher is correct, all your other bets organically fall right into place, like a line of dominoes. In fact, in the exact game our source used to demonstrate this strategy, Dylan Cease actually went out and threw a no-hitter, cashing every single correlated ticket perfectly. So we have covered a ton of ground. We talked about the immense compounding value of a 162-game season. We've seen how line shopping, exploiting daily promos, betting medians instead of means, and utilizing advanced strategies like arbitrage and correlation can mathematically flip the odds in your favor. You've got the playbook now. That massive surface area of opportunity is out there waiting for you every single day of the summer. So I leave you with this final thought as we wrap up this explainer. Are you ready to stop gambling and start investing in the MLB?